Turning crypto into 100K in 12 months. Is it even possible? This is NC Hammer Crypto. My name is Neil, keeping technical analysis short and sweet. And like and subscribe if you want. Become a member, slap some stickers, donate. Somebody commented on my last video stating that I built a $30,000 computer but don't have money to pay for my animals' medical bills. First off, it was a $3,000 computer and it was to mine Ethereum back when you could do that. Now that's no longer possible. And second off, my animals are fine. This is for the people who can't afford to pay for the surgeries themselves. The minimum pay here is like $1,000 a month, and a $200 surgery is pretty detrimental to somebody's paycheck. But with that being said, we're looking at Bitcoin and kind of what they were saying with the tulip collapse, where it was about 3 years, and then tulips just went to an average price. That is not what Bitcoin is doing. Bitcoin has lasted over 12 years and has consistently, if you hold Bitcoin, you will be in profit within 4 years. Over 50% is kind of what this states for the news. I always take news with a grain of salt. As people will say, oh, everybody's selling, and then people will buy, and then people will say everybody's buying, then everybody sells. So it's the way the market goes. It's market manipulation. And avoid news for the most part, because most news is just to get you to sell your bag while it starts to take off. Bitcoin is trying to build higher lows. So we see that's happening. We are testing the yellow line here, which we would like to see some support and push it back up to the 50, which would essentially bring it to the 94,000 mark. So if we can get to 94,000 and close above this previous high, we can see a continuation, and then the real resistance is the 200 EMA. Keeping in mind there may be some resistance at 98,000. With that being said, I'm actually going to bring up XYO. And if you're not a member yet on YouTube or Patreon, definitely subscribe, join, become a member. 50% goes to save animals' lives. But I will talk about XYO for the members because that one is actually looking very good. Jumping into HBAR though, HBAR, XLM, and HBAR, XLM, and XRP is what I'm going to talk about, as well as QNT, because QNT is following exactly the plan that I had prepared for it. We have HBAR trying to build higher lows, even though it doesn't look the best. It is moving into the CM guppy, getting some resistance on that medium mark, and we are below the yellow on the RSI, so we can see a further retracement, which could be pushing it down to the bottom of this channel. However, if that does not happen, we would like to hold above this previous low. HBAR and XLM look very, very, very similar with XRP. So let's bring in XLM as an example. And XLM, there's the downward channel as well, trying to build higher lows. Similar thing, as long as we close above this previous low, we are still looking pretty to start moving this upwards towards this downward trend line. The CM guppy is trying to get thinned out. Consolidation is ideal to see in this area, so we can move it towards this middle line before hopping over that and then considering it support. And then we only really have the 200 EMA and this little bit of CM guppy to break through and the downward resistance. So there's a bunch of resistance within this area, but if we can get up to this area, get a little rejection, and then get up over that, we would most likely get some resistance at 0.3, more or less 0.32 for Stellar, test this as support, and then take off. And I'm going to use that as an example to bring in QNT, as I'm only doing one video today besides the one for members for XYO. But QNT, like we said, we broke out of the channel, similar to like we were looking at with XLM and HBAR. So QNT did the thing where it pushed up over the 50 in this downward channel. Looking at this, we pushed up over, tapped that downward trend line, got rejected, came all the way to the bottom of this channel, and then got support, pushed immediately up, got that rejection yet again, and then pushed out of the channel. With that push out, I said wait for the retracement. There's the retracement. Just a few days later, go back in my videos. You can quote me on it because I told you it would happen. Even though we did push underneath the 200 EMA, it's nothing to worry about. We got the CM guppy coming to cause support. Downward channel is support. RSI is healthy. Volume is decreasing and price is decreasing. So it still has the option to push back within this channel, but is kind of losing the volume pressure, which gives me reason to believe that we are going to find support on this downward channel and start that momentum back up to the 618, which is around 110, where we can get some more resistance, pull back, and then push up again to try and hit that 786 on the Fibonacci retracement. The Fibonacci is just taking it from this top to the bottom, and it gives you more or less the golden ratio of where people are looking at for that resistance. And that is where I'm imagining we will get some resistance around 110. With all that being said, I always talk about Tornado Cash. Been talking about it for months. It's been up over 100%. It may not look the best at this moment, but all-time high is 459. It is still above that $11 mark, which we really don't want it to go below 11. If it does, you could see that liquidity sweep. But overall, I think Tornado Cash still has major potential to push up to at least a minimum of $200 from an $11 investment. So with my title, is it possible to make $100,000 in crypto in the next 12 months? Definitely. It's definitely possible. I mean, with my membership with the XYO, I'll explain why. XYO had a 76% increase in about 4 hours. So that's not out of the ordinary, which I will explain with XCN. For Tornado Cash, there's a reference link in the description below. You get 20 USDT free if you use that reference link. And you can buy some Tornado Cash, so it's a win-win. Definitely use a VPN. But let's talk about XCN. Can we talk about XCN? XCN had that major pump, but it also had some major rejection. And keep in mind with your donations, the 50% goes to getting me a new iPad because this is terrible. Absolutely terrible. I can't show you anything about CM Guppy till it pulls up, but I imagine we could potentially be doing an inverse head and shoulders long played out period. Could this be the bottom of the head? I think there's still a possibility for us to go down to 0.003 because we had this wick off. So the wick off pushed up into the CM Guppy as we expected, but got that major resistance. Volume picked up exponentially, but we did not see a lower point. So if we can close, we could expect a further consolidation above this red line. But if Bitcoin does something where it drops a little bit, 2%, something like that, we could see this pull underneath this red line, grab a bunch of liquidity before taking off. But the main thing I want you to keep in mind with XCN is that we are still building higher lows in the RSI. So as I explained previously, we'd most likely come underneath the yellow, pull back up, and then come back below it, forming a W right here with the purple line. And then we are crossing over the yellow again. If we can get that to hold, we could see that continuation back up to the 50, which could essentially bring this back into the orange more or less on the CM Guppy, starting to build a base and giving it nice consolidation where you would start looking for a trend line to start building upwards from that point. Something like this would be ideal, but that's nothing set in stone as of right now. CM Guppy's coming down pretty hard, but we're still going with this downward wedge, in my opinion. Keeping none of this as financial advice in any way, but in my opinion, I see this downward wedge forming. It's been trying to hold this as support, but like I've been talking about, there's still the possibility of that liquidity sweep, which would more or less invalidate the downward wedge. But if it does that liquidity sweep and pulls right back up into this downward red trend line, that would be more of a validation that this wedge is something that everybody else is seeing and looking at. And we could see that if that holds, easily push up towards the downward red trend line. However, we have that resistance coming in from the 200 EMA. If I draw a line right here, if my iPad logs it, it's lagging out. So 200 EMA would be coming down. That would be our major resistance, which you can't see because it's not allowing me to draw it. I gotta do something with this iPad. This is terrible. But imagine this 200 EMA is coming down smoothly here. We need to get above the CM guppy. That's the only real resistance we are having. We do have this 0.008, which we consider resistance from this previous support zone, which also lines up with where this 200 EMA could be meeting if we pull up to that 200 EMA. With that being pulled upwards, it would be essentially Bitcoin bottoming out and having that reversal, bringing XCN easily back up to that point, getting some resistance consolidation, hopefully building higher lows, and then getting a little resistance off this downward red trend line. This is all that needs to be broken. I'm telling you, this thing right here is the only real resistance keeping us back besides CM Guppy and the 200 EMA. That's a lot of resistance pushing this down, which is why we are getting that wick off, but it's not a reason to sell in any way. If anything, it's a reason to be picking up a bigger bag because we still have a lot of range to the upside. From this point, if you're new to XCN or crypto in general, that's about 100% increase in price potentially, and a lot more to go from where we are currently at. For those of you who are just here for XCN, definitely check out the other coins I recommend. XRP is great. I always recommend dollar cost averaging. If you are a member, I'm going to stop this video here and start talking about XYO and the reason it's looking better and better by the days, even with its major price reduction. So that's kind of it for this video, and I'm going to start working on this next one. Good luck, have fun with it, and I will see you guys on the next one.